Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Ooh.
Ooh.
We're going to need to find a smoother intro for that.
I know, then us being all shocked and then making some ghost noises like you do.
I don't know why I'm always shocked as well. I can literally see the screen and it's like it's going to record as soon as someone joins. And you join and I'm like, oh no.
It's begun.
Anyway.
A smoother start as always.
Exactly. Welcome back, Hannah's sister.
Yep. Our one listener so far.
And anyone else that stumbles across this, either hello or not welcome back. I don't know if anyone listened to the one before, but it was fun, so go listen to it.
Welcome from the future.
Welcome from the future, yeah. So today we are going to talk all about Nottingham.
We are.
Yeah. So I live in Nottingham. I've lived in Nottingham for 84 years now. No, I'm joking. Like 4 years, is it? Something like that?
I don't know. How long were we at uni for? So we were at uni for 3.
This
so
is
you
the
must
fourth
have been there
year.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
God,
that makes
time
sense.
just drags.
That's weird. So, I don't know if you know much about the general history of Nottingham, Hannah. But it's actually it's interesting.
I know Robin Hood, and that's legit.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I didn't know too much.
And I know Robin Hood
that.
because of the Disney cartoon, The Fox. That's it.
Yeah.
That's why I know Robin Hood.
Well, that's pretty much why most people know Nottingham, which makes sense. But yeah, so I was digging into the origins of Nottingham. There's no evidence of any occupation during the Roman era, but there's a lot of documentation for the Anglo-Saxon era. And so I'm so going to butcher this name. In the Anglo-Saxon era, Nottingham it's a Welsh name. It was dubbed Tig. I don't even want to say it.
It's gone so well already.
Gorkaback, something. It means a place of cave dwellings, which makes sense. Well, with some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, a place of cave dwellings. And it was dubbed that until it was under a new rule of a Saxon chief named Snot. I'm not
better and better.
I know. And then it was dubbed Snottingham or Snottingham, which just literally is the homestead of Snot's people.
Oh my god, I can't cope. This is brilliant.
Yeah. So Snot, good old Snot, he brought all of his people together in one area, which is now the Lace Market, which is in the city centre, popping area. Everyone goes to the Lace Market, and it's now really well known. And then after that, in the 11th century, Nottingham's actually referenced in the Domesday Book as Snottingham. Nice. If people that don't know the Domesday Book, it's a manuscript. It's dubbed the Great Survey, and it's for most of England and parts of Wales, and it was made by order of William the Conqueror. So I think it's just literally a survey of the land of what is where, who owns what. But yeah, and then it was the 11th century that Nottingham Castle was constructed. And Nottingham Castle has a bunch of history related to it. We'll have to go into that when you come visit again, Hannah.
Yeah, because it was closed last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was closed for refurbishments, and it was supposed to be done this summer, but I don't think we're going to have much for summer. Next time.
We just rule out 2020 doesn't exist as a year.
It doesn't exist. When people talk about it in history books, it's just going to be one line. It was just they stayed inside.
That famous year.
The famous year where so much happened. Actually, to be fair, a lot has happened. But anyway, I digress. The 12th century, we had the construction of St. Peter's Church, and that started I didn't even look up the date. It was
a long ass time ago.
A long ass time ago. There was 1 and there was an 8 somewhere. And also in this century, there was the construction of a Ye Olde Trip to Jerusalem, which is attributed as Britain's oldest pub.
I love
definitely
that.
Somewhere we should go. It has a bunch of creepy stories associated with it. So there are loads of little places in Nottingham that have loads of creepy little histories, and a lot of it's to do with the caves and stuff, which I'll get onto in a bit. But there's like a little, I'm not going to dig in too much to a lot of this stuff because a lot of it's not relevant, or this isn't a history podcast, so I'm not going to bother. So there's some interesting bits, but the things that Nottingham's actually really known for, like Hannah said, Robin Hood. Everyone knows the legend of Robin Hood: steal from the rich, give to the poor.
Attractive Disney fox.
Attractive Disney fox. I think that says a lot about us.
Disney do attractive foxes. Like Zootopia has an attractive fox as well. What is this?
Do you know what? You're not wrong. You're not. Okay. All right.
We've gone off on a tangent again.
We've gone off again. Okay. So yeah, Robin Hood's said to live in Sherwood Forest. It's just north of Nottingham. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Loads of also very spooky stories from Sherwood Forest. Another place Harry and I should definitely go.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the actual accuracy of Robin Hood is questionable. Loads of people claim him as like their own folklore mans, but Nottingham's really capitalised on it. And then there's the big Robin Hood statue in Old Market Square. So that's kind of what Nottingham's like known for. Obviously, that's it.
Like, didn't know how to segue into the next bit there.
Didn't know how to segue into the next bit, but yeah. Aside from that, there's loads of like smaller spooky places in Nottingham, which Hannah and I will definitely spooky places that Hannah and I will definitely visit. It's like Newstead Abbey, the Church Rock Cemetery, St Mary's Church. There are some real spooky stories about St Mary's Church. Oh, honestly,
I cannot wait for those.
Yeah, loads and loads of places. Your trip to Jerusalem, like I mentioned, the Bell Inn as well. Hannah and I just agreed that we're so going to book a room.
Oh my god, it'll be so much fun. We'll spend a whole spooky night investigating.
Yeah, there was some real spooky stories that I've read about that place. But yeah, so there's a lot in Nottingham. There's a lot of historic stuff, a lot of spooky stuff. So not recently actually, it was quite a while ago, wasn't it, that you visited?
Oh my god, yeah, ages ago.
84 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much. Too long ago.
Yeah.
What, the first visit or the second visit?
The second visit. No, actually, let's go with the first visit. Okay.
So the first visit was like March last year, I think.
Yeah, so. And that was when we went to Wallerton Hall, yes, wasn't it? Yes. So there were a few places in these visits that Hannah and I went. One was Wallerton Hall. We also did a tour of Nottingham Caves, which I'll get into in a bit, and the Galleries of Justice as well. But yeah, the first trip, we went to Wallerton Hall. Now, Wallerton Hall is absolutely beautiful. Like, from the outside, you look at it, oh my goodness. Yeah, it is insanely gorgeous. And it was architected by, Robert Smithson, and built for Sir Francis Willoughby. It opened to the public in 1926, and that was when it became Nottingham's Natural History Museum. So yeah, it was basically, this place was constructed and then it was passed down through generations as a Willoughby family. In the early 17th century, there was a massive fire, and then it was remodeled to like a Windsor Castle style. And where you might know this place, not spooky, but kind of funny, it was in The Dark Knight Rises. It was like Wayne Manor. Batman. Exactly. So yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. There are massive grounds around it. I really would recommend going to see it. And apparently the man of the house, Sir Francis Willoughby, he made a lot of fortune in coal. And apparently he was a very eccentric man. And he was very weird with his workers. There's a lot of really interesting history around that. But in terms of the actual house, like I said, absolutely gorgeous from the outside. Completely caught us off guard when we went on the inside.
Oh my god, it traumatized us.
Oh my god, it is just full of stuffed animals. And I mean, we'll get into it in a bit more detail. But we were walking around, and I was like, "This is weird," and it feels way more claustrophobic than it is. And then we had a very interesting conversation with someone, and she told us why. But I'm going to let Hannah do some talking about that, talk about some of the creepies of Wallerton Hall. But that's kind of the general history of it. Definitely look it up. It's absolutely beautiful. But creepy as hell, and the Willoughbys are weird.
To conclude, they are weird.
Yeah.
So I guess the best thing to say about like our experience in this hall. Like, it was draining, it was tiring. We were like emotionally drained by the end of it. It was exhausting, which like both of us are quite sensitive to these things. So we were just like, all of the negativity and like the souls that we could feel in that place was just intense. So we actually got chatting to a gift shop worker, I think it was. And she was telling us that actually in pretty much every space in that hall, there is stuffed animals. There are, I think it's this, she said it's the second biggest collection, or did she even say it was the biggest collection?
I think she said it was the biggest collection
of taxidermied animals in the UK. And she was saying that all the turrets are stuffed full of taxidermied animals. Like, just every little bit of storage space is crammed full of them.
That's the thing about this place. If you look at a picture of it, there are these 4 massive turrets on the side, and they look amazing from the outside, but apparently completely stuffed to the brim with taxidermied animals.
And it's just so like creepy. Like, it's hard to even explain the feeling. Like, we didn't know when we went in, like we said, that there were going to be this many animals in there. And the more we explored, you know, we started off, like, we got in there and we just felt tired and drained straight off the bat. And there was this one room where I think it was like a stuffed bird of some sort, or maybe it was like a head. I can't even remember what it was now.
I think it was a massive deer.
Yeah, and we just walked underneath it and we were like, nope, this doesn't feel right. Like, something about this place feels so dark and scared, and it was just like you could feel all of this energy from these animals that were there. And yeah, we ended up just sitting in the grounds like, what just happened?
I remember we literally walked out and we had to just sit, and like we just sat in silence for like 10 minutes,
just trying to like get over what we just experienced. It was very, very strange.
Super weird. I don't think I'll forget that feeling as well. It was so heavy.
I've just, like, it was just instant tiredness. I could have gone for a nap. But that experience aside, that is not the only spooky stuff that goes on at Woollerton Hall. So there are 2 quite famous ghost stories of Woollerton Hall. So
I'm excited.
The first one is kind of a very stereotypical ghost experience. And that is that there is a white lady who haunts Woollerton Hall. So she is said to haunt the half roof of Woollerton Hall, which I believe is because of the fire or something along those lines. It's not a complete roof. But
is it Lady Jane Middleton?
I think so.
Because I think when I was doing some reading for this, she was in the house.
Oh no, I found Lady Middleton. There's a different thing to do with her.
Okay.
She has her ghost story, don't you worry. She'll catch us up.
Okay, cool.
But what was said about this white lady is she would stand on the roof of the hall, and during World War II, it was kind of used as like a fire watchman place. So World War II soldiers, I guess, would be on the top of the roof and they would look out to see what needed kind of to be done. They were firemen, so they were looking for places that needed to be put out from anything that was going on. And it was said that they would be very reluctant to go on the roof because there was always this white lady up there, which is just creepy. Like, can you imagine being in the middle of World War II, like this massive traumatic time, and being scared to go on a roof because of a ghost? Like, I think that says how creepy this white lady must have been. But she is not the only ghostly lady. So, like you said, there's Lady Middleton. So she is all to do with the story of the mysterious light of room 19. So it's said that in room 19, a strange orange glow is always coming from the window. And so Lady Middleton, this was her room. I don't know if I'm saying that name right, but we're going to roll with it.
I don't know.
So she lived in room 19, and she was actually confined to room 19 and ended up dying in that room. So I can't remember the reasoning why she was confined. I think there might have been like she was left paralysed or something, like, is vaguely ringing a bell. But it said that there's always a light in room 19 and it never goes off, and they can't explain it. They don't know why this light is always on, and they don't know what this light is either. Like, they turn the lights off, so it's unknown why that room glows.
Oh, I wonder if we could try and stay in Wallerton
I don't think they'd let us stay in Wellington Hall. We may be able to, like,
I'll convince them.
Camp in the ground and try and see it. I'm sure they do ghost tours, to be fair. We probably should just see if we can go on a ghost tour.
I believe they do, so that might be something we should do.
We're just going to fund the entire of Nottingham's ghost stories.
Pretty much. We're going to bleed this place dry of its ghost stories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is Wallerton Hall. Or not Walton Hill, as I keep calling it for some reason.
Oh yeah, you do.
I just can't get it into my head. I don't know why.
Fair, it's because it was traumatizing.
Yeah, blocked it from my mind.
But yeah, so I think that was kind of the main thing we ended up doing on that trip, because that was weird. We were so exhausted. And tiring.
We made nachos. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then that was that the same night?
That was the night of the Xbox ghost.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
The Xbox.
We're naming them now.
It's a flying sock ghost, the Xbox ghost.
Honestly.
Well, if you're a new listener, you don't know what we're talking about, you need to listen to the podcast.
You've got to get caught up on all our spooky stories to know our background, realistically.
Exactly. If you want to be with these in-jokes, that's what you've got to do. But yeah, that was the first trip. I'm pretty sure that was what we did. And that was actually the first time I was like, oof, I feel these things. This is weird.
Because we talked about it, and I think we'd like hyped ourselves up, and then we were like, oh God, we actually do feel this. Like,
yeah, it was very strange.
Something else.
Yeah. So armed with this knowledge, we decided to have a second trip. Hannah came to visit me again, and we planned a bit more this time. We'd planned to go to the Galleries of Justice and the Nottingham Caves. I believe we went to the Galleries of Justice first,
so we did that on the first night.
Yeah, so on the first night we did that. The Galleries of Justice, if you don't know, this is really interesting. Because
I didn't know any of this. Before we went, I was like, this is mind-blowing.
Oh my God. Yeah. Basically, Nottingham's sketchy.
Like, seriously so.
Like, especially in terms of crime and punishment. I think a lot of it was kind of, well, that's the thing, there's some unofficial records about the Galleries of Justice. There's a certain time period, I think it's like 1375 or something, where it was officially a court, but there are some things that suggest that it was used for crime and punishment even before that. But anyway, so the Galleries of Justice is now a museum. It's all about crime and punishment. It's housed in Nottinghamshire Hall. And so the stands on the galleries there, they date back to 600 AD. And it's the base for Nottingham's original Saxon settlement. So yeah, it's old and dark. And basically a lot of it actually is built into the cave system. And we'll get onto that in some more detail a bit later. But that's kind of where the unofficial part comes from. There's some suggestions in that like caving system that links it to crime and imprisonment specifically from Saxon times, all the way back from Saxon times. This has potentially been used, only just in an official capacity since 1375.
Which is still a long time ago.
A very long time ago. So technically in 1375 it was only a court, and then it was a prison from 1449. Like I said, this is very loose because it was definitely being used before that. But basically as you walk up, there's these like really nice steps as you walk in, and a lot of people say they feel a lot of dread when they're walking up them, because actually this was the steps which were basically the entrance for public executions. And that's something we'll get into, I'm sure, in a bit. But yeah, public executions right on those steps is something people would like. It's a really tiny street, and people would crowd into the street and they would watch these public executions. And that seems very, what's the word? Like very inhuman.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
It's not very humane. Yeah. But that's not even the sketchiest part of all of this. It's nowhere near, yeah. So basically, a lot a lot of the imprisonment areas, like I said, were built into the cave system. So you can walk around the galleries of justice, and there's like the courtroom, some sketchy stuff went down in there. I'm talking live dissections, all kinds
that
of
just
stuff.
gives me goosebumps just thinking back.
Yeah, some creepy, just weird stuff. We'll get into that. So yeah, you walk through, but like the actual interior is absolutely beautiful. But then you sort of take a turn, go down through a few corridors, and you start to descend into the caves.
Down and down.
And that's where things get weird. And there are some things down there. There's this place. It's called the Pit, and it's the earliest surviving part of the jail. And it's where prisoners were thrown while they were, quote, waiting for their fate.
Oh God.
Yeah, and we were told, basically, we went into this pit. I don't know how much you remember from it, but I don't think I'll ever forget it. We went down into this pit, and it was literally like a tiny, well, not even tiny, it was actually relatively big.
But then you think about how many people were in there.
Exactly. Ooh. So there was like a relatively big space. It was all underground, and they would throw people in there if they were gonna, like, if people that were gonna be sentenced to death, or it was just like if it was overcrowded, they'd throw people in there. And there was also when there was like a plague outbreak. This is the
worst story I think I've ever heard.
Yeah. I won't go into it too much now. We'll talk about it, but basically during plague they would throw people in here, and there's a very, very creepy story that we were told that we'll get into when we talk about what happened with us when we went on this tour. But yeah, that was the pits. And there's also another part that is not it's not accessible by the public, so we didn't see this, and I didn't know this was a thing, but the sheriff's dungeon is down there. Yeah, and it's supposed to be the most haunted place in Britain. It's deep in the cave system under the Galleries of Justice. It's not accessible to the public, but they do have paranormal investigations there overnight. So it's something we could look into, but apparently it is creepy.
Well, if they're not making it accessible to the public, I feel like that says it all right there.
Yeah, exactly. And so aside from it being used as a dungeon, it was used as a chapel as well. So it's got a very creepy, like, religious but imprisonment. That very creepy niche
that
of
old,
like
religious kind of judgment, I think is the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm. Very creepy, but that's apparently the sheriff's dungeon. Apparently that's under there as well. Yeah. So there's a little brief overview of it. Hannah and I went on a ghost tour there. So at night we turned up. We didn't get there early enough or book the one where we get Prosecco. We should do that again.
Everyone else was drinking Prosecco and we were just stood there like, what is going on?
I was disappointed in us, honestly.
That was like, alcohol.
Why didn't...
But then I guess we wanted clear heads for this experience. But if I can see me being drunk and falling into the pit and that being that.
And I would laugh for a while before helping.
Yeah.
But so would you.
I'd probably just lie there laughing at myself.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's some of the history of it. I'm just going to segue into some spooky stuff. Do you want to...
I'm trying to decide what to start with because there is so much. Right, let's start at the beginning again. Let's talk about going through those steps at the beginning of the National Justice Museum. Oh, my voice just went. So, like you said, these steps were used for public executions. And once there was a public execution going on, and like Tiff said, these streets were very small. And there were a lot of people who came to watch this public execution. As you do, entertainment back in the day.
Casual Sunday.
And so once a mass panic broke loose on these streets waiting for an execution to occur. And during this mass panic, there was essentially a stampede and several people died. So it's thought that you can kind of feel that energy as well. And I think it was reported that people could hear like footsteps and, things like that associated with this mass panic that occurred on those steps, essentially, which is just like so tragic when you think about it. But then also it feels a little bit like karma. Like maybe you shouldn't be turning up to watch someone be murdered. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Criminal or not, I think. probably a little bit problematic.
Yeah.
So there's that. I can vaguely remember her telling us like some more ghost stories about the steps, but I cannot for the life of me remember what they were.
I seem to remember there was these very long, like, hanging silks by the door. And I remember her saying something about, because she looks after that place at night. And I remember her saying something about, like, seeing someone or, like, the ropes moving and something along those lines.
All very, very creepy and understandable. Like, to be expected with, you know, hanging ropes. So, like, just you can expect.
Yeah. 1 plus 1 does still equal 2.
So then, as we move through to the courtroom, like, this courtroom had some serious bad juju behind it.
Oh my god.
So let's talk about first what occurred in this courtroom and what it's kind of haunted by. So the first thing that was said, I've literally just like lost the note. I had a note written down and I was about to say something and now I can't find the note. So we'll ignore that. But we'll start with the dissections that would take place in this courtroom. So as we went on this tour, like, not to spoil you or anything, but, you know, I'm going to anyway. We got led and told to sit down in, like, these seats. I think it's like a viewing gallery or something. So we all go and sit down there. And there is this very heavy energy hanging out there. And so as we all sat down there, she comes over and she's telling us about the courtroom. And then she's like, so you should feel spooked if you feel spooked right now, because you are sat where people would be dissected. And we just all were like, what?
Do you remember the story she told about the person that got a bit excited?
Oh my god, no. I think I do, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah, this is not a very PG story. But so she was telling the story about how, so you would have live dissection, so people would be sentenced to be dissected. Yeah. And you would have a crowd of people that would like pay to be there and watch.
Entertainment was limited.
And this
no Disney Plus back in the day.
And next best thing, live dissection. Gross. But basically there was a man being dissected, and there were, like I said, the crowd of people, and there was a man in that crowd who got a bit excited. And do you remember, reached over and grabbed the guy's pee-pee.
God.
Just ripped it off to a casual souvenir. Yeah, sorry, continue, Hannah. That just came back to me.
I'm pretty sure there's said to be a male ghost that walks around this courtroom, who is one of the dissected previous victims. I think he's like a full body apparition. I don't think he's like a half dissected apparition, which would be insanely creepy and cool. But he will walk around the courtroom. And so I found the note I've lost. It was also said that the courtroom fell at one point. So the floor gave way and all the people in the courtroom fell into the cellar below, which...
Oh my God, I do remember that.
Just something else as well. So while we were in this courtroom, I think for me, this was the most significant part of this tour. I don't know if Tiff feels the same way, but as we were sat down, we were in the pitch black and we're waiting to be talked to. And I can remember just sitting there and thinking, I can't do this. Like, if I feel this much fear for this entire experience, I can't do it. Like, it's just not going to happen. I felt tired. I felt sick. I felt scared. I did not want to be there. I just wanted to get out. And I just was like, I knew this was a mistake. I knew I couldn't be over being scared of these things. Like, all of this, I felt so freaked out. And then the second we moved out of that courtroom and we started going on the tour elsewhere, that feeling completely dropped for me. I felt absolutely fine.
Really?
Like, I was happy as Larry going about this ghost tour. I was like, come on, come and show me something spooky. But, like, sat in that courtroom, I don't think I've ever felt that much fear. So
Wow.
that was definitely, for me,
Wow.
the most prominent experience.
That's crazy. I agree. Like, for me, that was the scariest room, but I felt something a bit different. I was sat there and I remember distinctly, I kept, like, it was very dark and I kept
looking to the left as well.
And I couldn't stop
like
looking to the left.
They had those seat things, didn't they? Like a walkway or something.
Yeah, they had the walkway, and there were these big pillars, and there was a chair in the middle, and it was like, I believe it was like where the judge would be. And I remember I couldn't stop looking to the left, and in that room, what I felt, it was fear, but it was also just complete paranoia. I felt like I was being judged, as obviously, like, I'm in a courtroom, but I felt disgust. I felt like ashamed. Like, it was so weird. Like, I've never felt that way before.
To the left as well.
And it was, but I remember she did. Like, I was looking to the left and stuff, and then she did point out, oh, this is where the judge would walk in and sit here.
Makes
and I was
sense.
like, oh my god, why don't, like, and bearing in mind she'd brought no attention to that area beforehand, but I just could not stop, and I had complete chills the whole time. I felt freezing.
It was a weird room.
That room, for sure. That
and
room
there were definitely some really, like, creepy other parts of this tour. So let's carry on our journey down towards the pit. So we're going to stop off at the prison warden's room. And so
oh my God,
the kind of prison warden's area was quite, it was quite sad when you think about it, because a lot of the women that would be imprisoned would essentially sleep with the wardens and the guards and stuff like that in order to try and have, like, nicer accommodation. So I think there was, like, that negative feminine kind of, like, joint collective sadness in that moment, being in that room, because you just felt for the women that had to do that in order to survive being in this place. Like, it's horrendous, isn't it? So we went into the warden's room, and I get a lot, like, the tour guide we were on was saying that this is the room that she dislikes the most. She finds it quite overpowering, and she kind of gave us that warning that a lot of people do find that room very overwhelming. And I didn't feel too spooked by it. Again, I felt that kind of collective sadness, but I can remember you saying, Tiff, that you found it quite a sad room and you didn't like being in that room.
Yeah, you talking specifically
like
about the smaller room with the little bed in? Oh, I just thought I was going to throw up just thinking about it.
And, like, a lot of people didn't want to be in that room, did they?
Yeah. No, I walked in and I was instantly like, there is something that, like, is very primal in me as a woman here.
It was
that's
kind of like,
no, I cannot be in this room.
Fear. And you could feel
the fear
of other people that had been through it. So that was quite a prominently sad kind of part of history. And I think that's sad because, you know, that isn't just one big story that took place. That was people's reality, that every single day that they would go through that in order to avoid being thrown in these pits. So we also went into a jail cell.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you mentioned
this.
So
she turned the lights off and shut us in the jail cell, and was kind of like, anyone see what you can feel and stuff. And it was a very creepy room. It felt very dark and very like something was around us, and just super spooky. And again, the lady who was doing the tour had said that she'd had an experience in this room where she was sat doing, I think she sits there and, like, talks to people when they come into the room in general on tours. So she'd been sat in there and, I can't even remember what she said about what happened. I don't know if you can remember the details, but she had been sat there, and I think she'd had someone in the room with her, I'm pretty sure. Like a ghostly apparition or something. I'm trying to remember. I feel like she said that she was scratched or something, but, like, the details have gone from my brain. This is why I should have written notes at the time.
Yeah, no, it was definitely
that
something
jail
like
room
that.
itself was quite creepy, and people are able to stay in that jail room and do paranormal investigations.
Yeah,
which again is pretty cool. And I think they've had some quite negative things come through there.
Yeah. Do you remember what she said about the type of people they would put in that
I'm
room?
trying to remember. Are they the ones that were like the proper serial killery kind of people?
Oh my god, yeah. So they would basically, they would put like murderers, rapists, people in there that knew they were going to be killed, like people that were about to die, and they would put them in there. And then if it was overcrowded, they'd put other people in there too. But those people would be in there with a murder. And there was do you remember the pipe? There was the gas pipe.
I can't remember.
Do you not remember this? Oh my god. And basically, like, people had died in there so many times because the people that knew they were going to die basically just gassed the whole room.
I do.
Do you not remember this?
It's like quite a big feeling of death in that room.
Yeah, so like people would get put in there with murderers, and the murderers were like, well, I might as well
Why
just
not?
take
We're
everyone
all
down
here
with me.
together.
And would just like, yeah, and because it was like a solid like room, there was no ventilation. It was literally like just killed everyone, and it would happen a lot.
That was that on that cheery experience. And we're now going to head down to the caves / the pit, and we're going to talk about the plague pit experience, because lordy, this is something else. So in this room there is, well, not even a room, in this cave there is said to be a ghost of a little boy. So to talk about this little boy's history, a bit of a warning, it's a sad one. So during the plague, they would put plague victims in this like cave pit thing, and I think they filled it up like it was full, and they shut the door. They closed it in and decided they were just going to let these victims die out, which is a horrible, horrible thought, to be trapped and know that, like, they didn't give them food, they didn't give them water, they were just there to die, and that is horrendous.
They just left them.
So some time went on, and they were hearing noises, I think, coming from this pit. And you know, there's enough time had gone that people would be dead. They were ready to clear it out and probably use it again for the exact same thing. So they opened up the door, and they could hear something coming from within these caves. And essentially what they found was a little boy who had been surviving by eating the other plague victims. And so he had eaten all of these people. And so they were trying to get him to come out and kind of, you know, rehabilitate him, get him somewhere else. They were trying to get him out of this cave. And essentially he just wanted to die. I think he talked to a priest, and then after that I can't even remember if he killed himself or they killed him, but he did essentially die after being enclosed for months and surviving only by eating the people around him.
I feel like it was longer than months,
I'm trying to, like, I was just so in shock by that experience, like the fact that this little boy had gone through that. It was just horrendous. I think the priest even said to him, like, you know, you will not go to hell for this, and that is when they killed him. Yeah. So that he knew he was going somewhere better. So, yeah, this cellar is said to be haunted by this little boy that went through that. Again, they do overnight investigations there, and it was just eerie down there. It was creepy, like, so creepy. I don't even know, like, a way to explain it. Like, the sadness was just immense.
Yeah, I can't think of a way
you
to
could feel it when you walked in. You knew something bad had happened in there, and then she tells you that there's been plague victims in there, and instantly the hypochondria in me is like, oh my god, am I going to get the plague? And then like, she told us that story, and I think I just felt sick to my stomach. I was like, I can't believe that someone went through that right where we're sat. So that was very horrible. And so the final thing that I am going to talk about now, about the National Justice Museum, is where the old gallows were. So, like we said, they would do hangings on the steps out front, but they also had another place where they would do hangings. I think this was later, so I think this is when you know, they wouldn't do public executions anymore, but they would still sentence people to death.
Yeah.
And so where these gallows were, they actually had built the lift over it. So the lift for the building over that spot. And they say that the lift often malfunctions, that it's thought to be haunted by the last man who was executed there. And so we couldn't actually get close to that place because there is just now a lift there. Like, it's not a creepy thing anymore. But I remember one of the pictures I took. So if you've never been on a paranormal investigation, you are kind of told to take a lot of photos and take multiple photos of one place. It's a good way to capture stuff. And I took a photo of that location and found an unexplainable kind of, I don't even know how to explain it, like a kind of, not even an orb, like a, sort of like a blurry figure around that place, that it was in the middle of a bunch of photos. It wasn't there before, it wasn't there afterwards. So that's happened there. And so I think that is the kind of end of my experiences there. I don't know if you've got any other ones that you can recall, Tiff.
No, I don't think so. I remember in that last little bit where the gallows were, they had like on the wall, they had like the people that had been hanged there, didn't they?
It's just knowing that so many people died where you're stood.
And the thing is, it's a really weird thing because you're like, oh, it's sad, but also you look at these people and they were like murderers.
And how do you feel empathy for these people?
Yeah, like fundamentally, I was like, can't feel empathy here.
Yeah, and you can still feel the
weird
fear that they would be experiencing, but then it's like you can't then feel the fear of their victims because, you know, they don't get this thing in memoriam to them. Like, because this has occurred to them in this place, they have now gone down in history for it. But, you know, their victims will just be forgotten, which is quite a sad thought, really.
Yeah, I think that's the real difference to me in terms of like the creepiness of that area compared to the creepiness of that room with the because I can feel the victims here. And that is true fear.
You've been put in this room with someone who was going to kill you. Like, God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so very creepy place.
Creepy.
So let's finish up on our last little bit of our Nottingham ghost tour for you.
Yeah. So after this, the day after, we went to the Nottingham Caves. Now, I didn't know about the Nottingham Caves for quite a while. I lived here for a solid 2 or 3 years without knowing that these caves existed. But basically, there is a network of caves all under the city of Nottingham, under the whole thing. They're artificial. They were carved out of soft sandstone, and they've been used for many, many things, but all the way back to 1250. So there's so much history in them, and basically it's now protected. And it has equal protection to Stonehenge and stuff, so it's marked as true heritage. It's really, really cool. But basically, before the Industrial Revolution, it was expanded. The network was expanded massively, and it became home to large populations of the poorer people in the city, especially those that were involved in the tanning industry. If you don't know much about the tanning industry, basically people would not live very long. It was all about animal hides and putting it them in different chemicals. People would they would get cancer, they would lose all their teeth, they would be sick, they would die very, very young. It was very, very poor people that would work in these situations, and we'll get into more of that because it was definitely a whole part of this experience. But that was a whole thing. It was used for that, and then there was some bits we used for smuggling, secret religious meetings, all kinds of things, and then lots of crime, lots and lots of crime. And then during World War II, they were used again as air raid shelters, which makes complete sense, because it's a massive system.
It's a brilliant idea,
really, perfect
isn't it?
For that kind of thing. It is. And then, slightly segueing back, Ye Olde Trip to Jerusalem, which is the oldest pub in England, is actually partially built into the cave system.
Such a unique
which is really, really cool. Yeah. And it kind of just shows how old it is as well. So like I said, these caves absolutely massive. A lot of it is closed off to the public, but the bits that aren't are very, very interesting.
So we actually went on a daytime tour of this. I think we'll probably try and go back and do a nighttime one at some point, because it's said to be a lot creepier at night.
Yeah.
So there are some definite ghost stories that come out of the Nottingham caves because of how old they are, essentially. There's so many things that went on in these caves. And I think my favourite kind of story that I've heard, well, I don't know if it's a favourite, I think it's the thing that would freak me out the most, is that it's said that you can still hear bombs being dropped on the caves. So that terrifies me. I think that's probably like the thing that freaks me out the most. And I remember when we were in that kind of section that had been done up to look like an air raid shelter, it left me feeling very uneasy. Like I don't like that thought at all. and so like really that's terrifying on itself. Like that's quite a big ghostly experience. But that is not all. There is also thought to be ghosts of crying Victorian women that will walk around the caves. In fact, there's just said to be a lot of Victorian women wandering these caves for some reason anyway. Literally just it's the place to be if you're a Victorian ghost. There's also said to be the ghost of a child called Rosie, and visitors will leave marbles and dolls for her, which is cute. I like a little ghost thing where you leave them stuff. I always think that's really sweet. And then it's also said that you can kind of get the lingering smell of candles throughout the caves. Again, I'm guessing back from when they were having to be used for various things. So it's creepy. It's very creepy, and it's very old, I think. I think that's
very creepy.
Like, I'm sure there's still parts of it that are fairly undiscovered, and, you know, there's probably hundreds of ghost stories that we won't know because people haven't experienced them yet. I'm sure there's plenty of apparitions that are turning up in parts that the public can't access. So that's pretty creepy. And like I said, we went during the daytime, so I know for me, I didn't particularly have any experiences except feeling quite overwhelmed in the World War II section. But I did get a creepy photo. I don't know if you remember this photo, because it was... So, I took hundreds of random photos throughout these caves. And once we'd done it, I was playing with saturation and stuff like that. Like, we were playing around with it all to see if anything came up.
Yeah.
And there was a picture of a well that I'd taken, and in that there was a very creepy looking face within the well. I hope I haven't deleted these photos. I need to go back and look. But so oh
my god,
you know, it probably could be explained away, but you know, it was still pretty creepy at the time. Any experiences you want to share, Tiff?
So I definitely thought the World War II bit was creepy and really, really interesting. I've always, whenever anything about World War II's come up, for some reason, I feel very attached to it. Even back in school, learning about it, there was some part of me that's like, I feel very strongly about this, and I don't know why. So that was just like another thing that came up. I think for me, when we went through this whole section that still had loads of like dug out like rectangles in the ground that were the tanning pits.
Oh my god, it was gross.
And it smelled a bit funny and like, and the woman was just like explaining the different types of work that people would do, the different stages, how long each stage of tanning would take through these bits of animal hide, and like what would happen to the people. And I remember just like, I felt sick, not sick as in like I'm going to throw up, but like weak. I felt weak. And I felt like I hadn't been outside in 84 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I felt like small.
That feeling. Of being enclosed within these caves.
And and it was really, really weird. But we went in the day and said, I mean, it's dark down there. It's a freaking cave.
I think because there were like kids on the tour and stuff as well. Like, you can't get into the creepy details that I'm sure you get into on the tours that are adult-centric.
I think if we just went and it was dark and
Oh
if
my
we
God,
just knew
yeah.
it was nighttime,
We need
it
like
was
a
just
spirit
us, we
box or
would be
something. Like that would be
terrified.
so creepy down there.
Yeah, so creepy. But yeah, nothing jumped out immediately. I would be
Oh my
so
gosh,
curious
definitely.
to explore some of the other parts of the cave. And there is a tour, like a ghost tour, that takes you through your trip to Jerusalem and some other haunted pubs, and then down into those caves. So we'll definitely do that. And it also goes through some historic stuff with Robin Hood as well. Some agenda stuff there. So exactly the 2021 Nottingham 2.0 agenda.
So we can just do it all. Just go intense.
Oh my God, I would love that. I love it. But yeah, so those were the places that we visited that time. And that was also when we had the devil card tarot experience.
Ironically, the most scary part of that entire weekend occurred in your house.
Yeah, that's honestly... Well, I mean, when that happened, once again, if you don't know what we're talking about, check the last podcast.
Although
we talk about all of our spooky stories. But yeah, when... we do. But yeah, that was that trip. It was very spooky. We're definitely going to do it again. But that's some talking points about Nottingham. Like I said, there's a lot more. There's a lot of cemeteries, a lot of churches, a lot of very old workhouses. Like Nottingham has a lot of old mills and stuff as well. Very, very creepy stuff. A lot to still explore. So stay tuned for Nottingham 2.0. Yeah. But I guess for now, it's update time.
Oh my gosh.
Hannah has a very, very
funny
funny story.
The experience of Felix the duck. And I'm going to preface this by saying I'm sharing this with you so you can see that when we are telling our stories, we are telling you the truth. Because this is debunked. This is not what happened. So,
but it is
basically
hilarious.
This all occurred a couple of days ago.
So funny.
And my mum had come down from the bathroom and told me that she had heard a duck in her bathroom, and she'd heard the duck behind her, and then she'd moved positions in the bathroom, and she heard it again in a different position, and then she heard it one more time again behind her. So this was all very I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I bounded up the stairs to go and investigate this apparent ghost duck that we had. We were trying to debunk it. We were like, well, this ghost this duck could not have been outside the window because you wouldn't have heard it in the right place. Is this duck in our walls? What is going on with this duck? And then my dad had said that he'd previously heard the duck as well. So at this point, I'm like, this is so exciting. I know. I was like, we've got
for your dad to say that as well.
Incredible. So I told Tiff, we named him Felix.
She messaged me.
All very good. And then about 5 or 6 hours later, my mum comes running back down the stairs and she's like, I heard it again. It made this noise meh, meh. And instantly I know that we have not got ghost duck. What we have is my fitness watch, which has been sat on the side in my bathroom for 2 weeks because at the moment I'm not going to work, so I don't have my watch on, and every half hour it tells me that I'm being lazy and not moving, and it makes that exact noise.
Oh my God.
And so it's still a little bit weird. I don't know how it's doing it. It's sat on a dish in my bathroom, and I think the noise is then transferring through the ventilators in our bathrooms and pushing the sound into their bathroom or something. So it's still a little bit odd. But yes, Felix the duck was debunked. Felix was a watch. So there goes my experience.
Very sad.
I was like, oh my God, Tiff, I'm being haunted. I talked about it and now it's happening. I have a duck.
Yeah, you just funny. You must be like, I've got something that's going to make you lose it.
My update. Sadly, we don't have a duck ghost. Felix is no more.
That's very sad. Maybe I'll buy you a duck.
I went through 5 hours of being incredibly excited about the fact that I possibly had a ghost.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had the same experience of being excited about having a ghost. I can tell you that much. I, in the last podcast, talked a little bit about some of the stuff that's been going on in this place, including weird running and just creepy music, all kinds of stuff. And when we were on the podcast, my window opened.
Ugh, creepy.
Like the handle flipped up.
Oh my god!
And we caught an EVP. Yeah, so if you listen back, I don't remember exactly what the timestamp is.
Yeah, just listen from 18.
It's like 18
to 19,
something,
and it's in there.
Yeah. Oh, and basically, I'm talking about the old woman that I used to see when I was a child, apparently. And as I'm talking, I'm like, I think I've seen her before, or I think I've seen her since then. And there's a small gap.
Oh, it's
and
so
someone
creepy.
whispers,
honestly,
maybe.
I freaked out.
Yeah, I swear to God. Yeah, like listen back. It's really weird, and it's very clearly not Hannah or myself. And it's a very clear whisper, but it's like, it's so.
Yeah. It just.
I don't know. It's like it's timed in a way that you're like, what the hell? Yeah, so weird. And then I was on. I've been working from home, and I was on a Zoom call with my team. And where I had my laptop positioned, you can see like behind me, there's my windows in my living room, like TV and stuff. Like there's the whole background. And I was on the Zoom meeting, and my window flipped, like the handle flipped open, and the window actually opened all the way.
Terrifying.
And my whole team and everyone, we were like, "What the hell?" And everyone saw it.
You have witnesses.
I saw it. I was here. They saw it. Like it happened. I have witnesses. And I was like, wow, that's weird, because it literally opened. If it just, opened, I'd be like, oh, if it was flipped up, I'd be like, oh, it's just wind. So but no, it opened. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then I was relaxing. I'd had a long day. I'd been working all day. Working from home is hard. So I was like, right, I'm going to grab me a glass of wine. I'm going to sit in the bathtub. So I was having a real good time. I was sat in the bathtub, I was playing Stardew Valley on my Switch, I had my wine, then I put my Switch down, and I was like, do you know what, I'm going to check the podcast, I'm going to see if anyone listened to it. So I opened it up, and as I opened it up, my lights started dimming, like, properly flicking on and off.
Excuse me, what?
And I was like, At this exact moment that I opened this podcast, are you joking? And so I was like, that's really freaky. But, could just be a fluke. God. Maybe I imagined it. Who knows? Then it happened again, and I was like, right. And I started hearing noises. So I was like, right, I'm going to get out of the bar because I'm currently just like vulnerable. If I have to fight a ghost, I don't want to do it naked. Exactly. And so I got out of the bath and I went and sat in my living room, and I was like, do you know what? No, I'm fine. I calmed myself down. I was like, it's fine. It's no big deal. And then it happened again, and I was like, do you know what? Fuck you. But yeah, and apart from that, I've still had the weird running, the weird noises, but I haven't reached out. Weirdly enough, it's not at night time.
That's quite good. At least you're being able to sleep.
It doesn't happen at night time. That's the thing. I think it's someone.
Yeah.
I don't feel complete fear. I think someone's just messing with me, and they know that it wouldn't even be funny to mess with me at night time, because I just wouldn't entertain it anymore.
Bye.
I'd just be like, yeah, sorry, you have to leave. You're not welcome here anymore.
Some definite.
So that's been really interesting. That's kind of, that's the sort of update to
I'm so invested.
my life at this current moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know if anything else happens. I've gotten to the point where I can't really watch spooky stuff.
It's too close to home.
I'm just freaking myself out, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Oh my God,
I love
YouTubers
horror
talking
movies.
about ghosts.
I love watching YouTubers talking about creepy stuff. Like, it's so much fun. BuzzFeed have started releasing a new season of Unsolved.
I'm not big on the true crime ones.
Me too.
I mean, I love true crime, but
I'm a big true crime girl, so I still love it. But
the true crime,
ghost
crime cases that everyone's done, like they're not very original on their cases.
Yeah.
So that's my review of BuzzFeed Unsolved.
This is true. Yeah. Nice.
I tell you what, I do watch all the time, just as a pick-me-up. I am rewatching Glam and Gore's ghost, investigations. Like, there's no tomorrow.
Me too. Her ghost investigations are amazing.
Yes,
That's what we should do. That's what
I
we're
do
going
that
to
at
film.
work
That's how
all
we're
the
going to do
time,
it.
and guess what's going on? When I'm sat on the Zoom call and I'm like, a ghost.
Yeah. I love it. I support you, Hannah.
Yeah, we've covered it all.
Right. I think that's everything on the agenda. We have. Like we said, we're going to have a Nottingham 2.0 as soon as we are able. Yeah, as soon as Papa Boris says that we can go outside.
We'll go to play outside.
People. We will. Yeah. We will. We'll probably stay in the Bell Inn. We definitely have to take a trip to.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was
the old trip to Jerusalem. Should have chosen my words better there.
Do some spooky dooky graveyards.
St Mary's Church. There's the Church Rock Cemetery.
That's my list.
Yeah.
All the workhouse.
There's also St Peter's Church.
Loads of stuff to be investigated in the future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. We'll figure something out.
Well, I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll figure something out and we'll be here.
How do we end this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave us a review. That'd be nice.
We need to figure
if you have listened to us rambling, we'd really appreciate it to know that our little weirdos are out there listening.
Yeah. I would appreciate that, and then check back on our other podcast if you haven't listened to that already. It's very entertaining, very spooky. Get some context on the random in-jokes we've been sprouting.
And stay safe.
And join us next week.
Important.
Yes, stay safe, stay inside. Don't be messing
Don't
with
use
Ouija boards. I know, so many PSAs.
It's not a good idea when you can't leave.
Don't do it. No. Exactly. If you invite something in, you're inviting it to actually be your housemate for the next 6 months. So don't do it.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, right.